Okay, now we're going to demonstrate the overhead loaded carry. Now, there's something that I noticed too that we've actually called this packing the shoulder. And you had a little bit different take on that, and I wanted to kind of ask you about that and how would you describe this process as far as controlling this weight overhead and what the scapula is actually responsible for here?
Yeah, so packing the shoulder is a really common phrase, and it's a really helpful cue for a lot of new beginners. And essentially what packing the shoulder just means is setting the shoulder down so you have a nice open long neck position. And the way you do that is you kind of activate the lat. The same thing happens in the rack position, the shoulder's depressed, right, in both. But in my experience, especially as you start doing a lot of overhead work, probably a better term to use would be setting the shoulders. Because what happens is especially, well, two things. One, after the arm goes beyond about 140 degrees of shoulder flexion, right? This is shoulder flexion, this is shoulder extension. Once it goes beyond 140, the T-spine should move into an extension to assist in the overhead range of motion. The other thing that should happen is as the arm goes overhead, we should see the scapula rotating, right? So not so much that there's a problem with packing the shoulder, but what I tend to see more frequently than I can even describe is overpacking the shoulder.
Right.
So what you see is this pulling down. And what you have to think about is the premise of what we're trying to achieve is shoulder stability and shoulder safety, right? So yes, we don't want the shoulder up to the ear, but I also don't want it depressed so much to where I'm pulling this, because then essentially as the arm goes overhead, what you have is you're going to tend to have the head of the humerus is going to run into the acromion, and you'll essentially have a traffic jam. There isn't much space there. So what I like to say is make sure that the neck is nice and long, but you're also meeting the weight with a little bit of an upward push.
Okay.
So
you're creating supported tension that way and allowing it to sort of freely go into that position as opposed to really forcing it down and packing that shoulder down.
Yeah, we want optimal stability. We don't want over in any position. I don't want to be up here, yeah, and I don't want to be down here.
Got it.
Because that will lead to some type of compensation strategy depending on where the lack of range of motion is or where someone's weakness or where their strengths tend to be.
Okay. So now the same setup here with getting it into the rack position. Okay, now he presses it up.
Okay, so I'm going to demo. So this would be what I would tend to call an overpack position, or what I tend to see when people just cue the pack. This. Okay? This is more what so if that is the pack position, this is what I like to see. Boom.
Okay.
So it's not a huge difference, but I can feel a big difference in my shoulder. It still feels very stable, but I'm not pulling the weight down.
So you're almost doing both simultaneously. You're pushing up and packing at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now the elbow is completely locked. The wrist is in a nice neutral position. Kettlebell sits into the heel of the palm. I'm looking straight ahead. This is my position right here.
Okay, now we're going to add movement here and walk through, but supported here.
One other thing too, if you can notice, the direction of my thumb is pointing in the backward direction. If I allow this to come out, this is a pretty unstable position, and that'll cause quite easily, especially as you're under fatigue, the elbow to bend, and then that's a dangerous position to be in. So the thumb should be angled either a 45-degree angle or slightly more posterior towards the rear. And the elbow fully locked. And I'm using just enough grip on the bell to secure it. I'm not super loose up here because that'll tend to destabilize the shoulder. I've got a nice secure grip and a long open neck and chest position.
Okay, great. And there it is.